Good evening to everyone. And we're delighted to be back with the Always Wolves Squadcast. We've got my regular co-host, Manny Kang. Hi, Manny.
Hi, everybody. How you doing?
And we're joined by Amy, and we'll get on to Amy's retro shirt along with her co-host, Blossom.
It's like she's literally just come along. It's like she knew.
She knew
it was
TV,
time.
Amy. And we're really delighted to welcome our special guest tonight, the brand new Express Stars Wolves reporter, already given us lots of great stories, Mr. Liam Keane. Thanks to coming on and making your debut tonight, Liam. How are you?
Yeah, pleasure. Thanks for having me on, guys. Yeah, I'm all good. It's been, it's nice to do these sort of things and get in with a lot of the fans. And as a Wolves fan myself, I don't have the accent, but a Wolves fan myself, it's nice to get in there with you guys and just give fans a bit of a feel of what I'm like as well, I suppose.
Absolutely. And Liam, I'm sure you're going to get lots of questions fired at you today. Merv says hi to all of us, and they're all saying hello in the chat. We've got so much to discuss. Obviously, so much has happened since the end of the season with obviously with Nuno being sacked, Bruno Lage coming in. There's transfers in, transfers out. Are we going to get that central defender that everybody wants? 3 weeks left of the transfer window. We've had the pre-season, the new shirts come out. And obviously we've got to look ahead to Wolves' chances. And Liam, you've been there all the way, closely monitoring. You've had a chance to speak to the players. You've had a chance to be at most of the pre-season games, and of course, you've had a chance to have a good chat with the new head coach Bruno, haven't you?
Yeah. He's come across pretty well, and the players seem to have taken to him. He seems popular, friendly, open, and just seems like a nice guy, really, which is one part of it for me and for other journalists. It's nice to deal with someone who seems fairly open. Wolves fans want results, so from Saturday onwards, we're going to find out whether it's any use, and hopefully it will be.
Well, definitely. I think the jury is definitely out on that one. Manny, you had a couple of questions on Twitter, didn't you? Want to kick off with one of those to start with?
Yeah, I mean, just say hello to Liam and welcome him to the Always Wolves podcast. Just before I ask the questions, I was just going to say Nuno had initially with the press had a bit of a fraught relationship, and there was a few stories coming about where Nuno wasn't forthcoming with answers or didn't really want to reveal too much. So I don't know if you had any experience previously. You probably didn't, but obviously Bruno looks like he's a bit more fun, and someone's just said sounds more fun than Nuno. Is that correct?
Yeah, definitely. I obviously, before I got the Wolves job, I was covering Walsall, and I dealt with a manager who's now at Port Vale called Darryl Clark, who was, to say the least, abrasive. So I was a little bit prepared for it, I suppose. And I jumped in and covered holidays and covered sort of COVID misses last season when Joe was out. So I did deal with Nuno a few times, and I probably dealt with him maybe a dozen times, I think, pre-match and post-match stuff. And he wasn't too bad with me personally. There was one or two where, you get one or two words. But, on the whole, he didn't enjoy it. He didn't enjoy talking to us. He didn't enjoy really speaking and about anything, open about, his tactics, open about transfers. I think you've seen that already at Spurs. He's been asked several times about Harry Kane, and I think there's that picture of him with his head in his hands looking down because he doesn't want to talk about it. And Bruno, I mean, he's not going to be, he's a football manager, and at the end of the day, he's not going to come out and tell you who all his targets are, but he will definitely give more detailed answers. He's a lot more open. But I caveat that with saying, he may not be quite as open if the first three games don't go too well. So he comes across like a much more open and sort of transparent character. Anyways, there's less things hidden. Obviously, he invited us to watch training as well. So he's not trying to hide. It's obvious what he's trying to do. And I think everyone's picked up on that so far.
So yeah, Paul Mansell asked the question. You've answered most of it on terms of his personality. What about his coaching philosophy? Have you clearly seen what type of coach he wants to be or the style he wants to bring to Wolves?
Yeah, it's been plain as day, really, what he's been trying to do. You look at some of the training that I've watched alongside the friendlies as well. It's high intensity, it's aggressive. He wants the transition is a big part. He felt that the transition, which, you know, the reaction to losing the ball or regaining possession, he felt that the transition was really poor against Las Palmas in that game. And that's something he's worked on a lot in the last few weeks in terms of, you know, he's watching, just for example, on the training ground, at Molineux when I watched it, he was on the players to, as soon as they lose the ball, to react quickly. He would then, you know, stop play, throw a random ball into the pitch, doing sort of 11v11 scenario, and then he'd want his players to react again to another situation. So it was all about sort of quick reactions, aggressive, pressing high. And the second half against Celta Vigo, they did that very, very well. Yeah. The problem is the first half they didn't. So it's going to take a bit of time, but that's what he's looking for.
Well, it was definitely a very exciting second half to Celta Vigo. I kind of looked at the Celta Vigo game. It was a back three. We conceded first. We didn't score in the first half, and then we played a lot better in the second half. From an alien looking outside, it didn't look like that much had changed. Although, to be fair, we should have probably scored 4 goals in the second half. How we never scored, I don't know. No. Amy, you were at that game, weren't you? What did you make of it?
I was. I'm quite, I don't know, a bit worried. I just can't see what's changed currently at the moment. Like you said, Dave, everything that happened on Saturday seems to be quite a reflection of what happened last season. And I don't really like using pre-season friendlies as a judgment, because, you know, they're just friendlies at the end of the day, aren't they? They're necessary, but they're never the most pleasant of things to watch, and you don't really think you get a real feel for it. But I agree. I don't know how they didn't score. Some of it looked a bit chaotic, especially in the first half. I thought they didn't seem to find their flow very well. Here it was better than the previous weekend at Stoke and Coventry, and Celta Vigo are actually quite a good side. I looked at them like 7th in La Liga last year, so it wasn't like they were playing Coventry again. I'm a bit apprehensive, I think, for the start of the season. I think it's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of unknown at the moment, and I guess everyone's just kind of waiting on bated breath to see how it turns out. The players are pretty much Nuno's squad, so they've obviously got to adapt to a new management style, which in any job is not easy to adapt to a new manager. So that's obviously going to take some time. I think it could be quite, I don't know what the word is, quite a tense first few games, because I think it is going to take quite a while to settle. From what I've seen, I think we need to be kind of a bit patient with things. And as we know, a lot of Wolves fans don't have a lot of patience, so it's going to be a tasty few weeks, I think, is my prediction.
just on that as well, I totally agree with Amy. I think that potentially you might even see a very not say similar, but not necessarily totally different style to what we saw last season in these first 3 games, because it's such a difficult 3 games that Bruno may be naive to go into it gung-ho for the style he wants to do. It may be, I think we're probably expecting 3 at the back, and he'll probably, you know, be very compact, try and keep the ball as best they can, but react in the transition and maybe, you know, squeeze out a couple of results, and then beyond that you can try and implement what he's trying to do, which is going to take time. You know, it takes months to get across a system, and they've only had a few weeks with the full squad because of the Euros, so it's going to take time.
You know what? I actually thought the second half, for about 20 minutes, was as good a football as we've played for 3 years.
No, I agree. I do. I think the first 20 minutes.
That very quick, very high press, 1-2, straight down the wing, balls, and we should have buried Celta Vigo 3 or 4-1 quite easily, to be honest. And so I was apprehensive, but actually, second half, I was hopeful as well. But I think we need to quickly, Dave, move on to the question everybody's asking on the timeline, is what's happening with recruitment? Because we had a real fast start on the recruitment. Wolves are very cagey, never really released too many details of who they're going to sign, and suddenly Trinco came. Ait Nouri was signed for half the fee that we thought we would pay for him, and we replaced Patricio straight away as soon as we had somebody lined up. And we signed a centre half who's impressed us all. Now he's got injured, but he did impress us all. But then suddenly, obviously, the Euros have ended and it's gone very quiet. Now, I just want to ask the question is, do reporters get any real leads anymore, or are clubs so out of touch? Because we as fans, as a majority, feel like the Dalrymple, the Kevin Thelwell, that type of era has disappeared and we've lost touch with the club as fans. So we're now looking to you, people like you, Liam, to bridge that gap and give us the insight into what is happening. Are we after players? Are we getting anybody in? And how reliable that information is. And that's you've probably seen on Twitter. Every post that Wolves admin put on is just bombarded.
Announced centre back.
Yeah.
So, I mean, in terms of rumours, you're going to find rumours around everywhere, and the vast majority of the time they're rubbish. That's not necessarily because the source is bad, but a lot of agents in football do a lot of work. Let me put it that way. They speak to a lot of people, and if they need to get a player's name out there or get a player spoken about online or spoken about in the media, they'll do what they can to make that happen. And obviously that gives them leverage in various different situations. In terms of whether reports on the South get reliable information, Wolves is obviously much more closed than some other clubs, but a lot of Premier League clubs are like this as well. But yeah, I mean, it is obviously possible. I mean, I've got one or two bits myself, but it's also following up on things that are already out there. So obviously, as you must have seen today with Yakushlu, the stuff I put out today was that everything I'm being told is that there's nothing in it. Doesn't mean by the end of August there might not be anything in it, but I think it looks very unlikely at this stage. There's nothing in that. Catroni, for example, it was out elsewhere. I've spoken to the people I speak to and got it confirmed that he's off to Italy again. So there is a relationship there, and I've got to try and bridge the gap. But for me personally, this doesn't speak for people who've been doing it for years. For me personally, having only been in the job for about a month, I've got to build up trust, relationship, contacts, all that kind of thing, and that's part of the job. And I'm working on that as we speak. But there is a bridge to gap. I understand what you mean, and that is possible. And journalists do it and do it well. It is difficult, but then with so many rumours going around, there is leads there as well.
The story that really stuck with me was that we heard the press and the local press report that Bruno Lage was probably thinking about giving Catroni a chance, and he needs to prove himself, and giving him an arm round the shoulder. And the next day we hear he's off, he's gone. Yeah. So
are they paying a loan fee for Catroni? Because I know Wolves are paying half his wages, aren't they, Liam?
On either of those, I can't comment on that just yet. I don't know, so I need to check. I've actually been off today, so I don't know. But Manny, what you said there, I mean that is exactly an example, of how quick things move in football. Both of those stories were true. There were quotes from Large talking about the plans. There were then within a day or two. Catroni is off. That is going to happen. It's been agreed. So that's how quickly things move. You also got to bear in mind as well that managers will say things, and sometimes it won't necessarily always be the case. They've got A, B, C reasons that they need to, protect a player. They need to protect a relationship or whatever it is. So they work it to their advantage as best they can as well. So it's both are true, but it's just how quickly things move in football. I mean, anything can happen. That's how quick it is.
Yeah, I think as well, picking up on that comment that just came out, Twitter is a source of a lot of this rubbish. I don't think these days, if you take it back 10 years ago and social media wasn't a thing, there was probably more substantial rumours because there wasn't so many channels where things get diluted. So I think a lot of clubs now choose to not do anything because they're afraid of leakages and things like that. I mean, you see this spiral with just small things with social media. So when there's ultimately football is a business, they need to protect that. So I personally hate transfer rumours. I'm like, until they're there in the room, signed, done deal, I don't see the point in speculation. We've all got our opinions on who should come in, who shouldn't come in. But at the end of the day, like I say, it's a business. They've got what they want to do. So I hate seeing transfer rumours because half of them aren't even true. So you think you get all excited. I mean, how many years has Cristiano Ronaldo come into bloody Wolverhampton to complete?
Wasn't he seen in Asda having a
Yeah,
cup of
something
tea
like that,
like
exactly. So, you know, I just think people get too wound up on these, too attached to these rumours and everything. And I just think it is what it is. You know, they'll be there start of the season. Hopefully we'll get, and like, I agree, we need a few more signings, but who they are, I trust the club to make that decision.
Well, there's a lot of
Go on, sorry.
I was going to say there's a lot of expectation at the start of this transfer window. Obviously, it's been widely reported that Wolves, even though Fosun have, you know, billions, they want to run the club on an even keel, and they've got FFP to deal with. There's a lot of initially expectation almost. I think it was announced in The Guardian that Ruben Neves was off to Arsenal. Traore was going to go. It seems as the transfer window's gone through now, it seems less and less likely that Wolves are willing to part with those two players. And I think if we keep them come the beginning of September, I think in itself, that'll be quite a positive for me.
Yeah, and like
I
you say,
totally
it's
agree.
about keeping players as well. And if you take it outside of Wolves, the transfer market hasn't been that rife anywhere.
There was a question leading on to that midfield. Now we're talking about midfield, about our talisman, the one we signed when we entered the Premier League, which was the marquee signing for me, was João Moutinho, possibly one of the best footballers we've ever seen down at Moutinho. You know, absolute legendary status, sort of what he'd done already. But we've got rid of Taylor Perry, who I thought he's looked really promising, maybe to come through the ranks. Owen Atasowi doesn't seem like he's in the plans. Who was the other one? Vitinha. We didn't take the option. So we've lost 3 players that were potentially midfield players. We've farmed them out, potentially. And we've got Neves, who, thankfully, it looks like we've rejected all the offers and he's sticking around from the way he's talking. Dendoncker, and an aging Moutinho, who may be losing his legs to play 30, 40 games a season. So the midfield, where are our options there? Are there irons in the fire? I think this Yokuslu, rumour came about and people did grab onto it because it's an area we need to strengthen.
Yeah, they
definitely
need to
yourself.
Yeah, definitely need to strengthen. I felt that I think Neves has been wonderful in pre-season. I thought the second half against Celta Vigo, he was the best player on the park. I thought against Coventry he was excellent. I thought Leander Dendoncker had a very, very good second half against Celta Vigo as well, which I was pleasantly surprised with because he had a poor season by all accounts last year. Moutinho, I agree. I think technically he's still a very good player. I think for me, he's one of the best players I've seen in the Wolves shirt. But his legs, the age, he's not going to be able to play week in, week out, play 90 minutes. They certainly need depth in there. For me, they need someone who is going to, almost like box to box, a proper number 8, someone who's going to break beyond break into the final third, break beyond the final line, make late runs into the box, someone who's going to become an option, someone who can play decisive passes forward. That's the kind of player they need for me. So even with the Yokuslu rumours, I'm not entirely sure he'd have fit the mould anyway. He's more of a defensive-minded player. So for me, they need a proper box-to-box, I think. And they are looking, that is one of the major, that and centre-back are the 2 major areas that they want to strengthen. Even though they're going to lose Cutrone and most likely going to lose Rafa Mir, striker is third behind those 2. They're looking for those 2 first, and they are working on it as we speak.
Okay, so they're definitely working on a centre back and a centre midfielder.
Yeah,
Liam,
they're the 2 priority areas.
The striker we suffered last season because we only had Silva because Jimenez got injured, and now we've left ourselves in a very similar position where we've only got 2 strikers if Cutrone's gone. So suddenly they're giving themselves another problem to fix.
It's a risk, isn't it? It's definitely a risk. Yeah. But you also got to remember, they've still got 3 weeks to make a decision, and things move very quickly. They've obviously been working on it. They haven't just been sat around just ignoring the transfer window. So things, and as we know with Wolves in the past, things do happen quickly, and all of a sudden, someone's arriving at Compton or Moutinho, and before we know it. So it may not even be a name that anyone gets hold of beforehand. I mean, obviously I'm trying to, but it's not always the case. It doesn't always work out that way. So only because I know sort of how it works, and having worked in football, I'm less worried than I think the average fan, because things move quickly. They have a plan. They know what they want to do. They just got to get the deal that works right for them, the right player, and it will all come together.
And there's still 3 weeks to go. And Wolves tend to not, I think maybe Wolves, a lot of Wolves, we don't tend not to leave things till deadline days. Normally, no one from Sky, the person that stood from Sky outside of Molyneux's just eating a bacon sandwich and got nothing else to do and sitting on a deck chair. It might change this year. Interestingly, you talk, obviously, the centre-back. I think it's a key position. Do you think Bruno Lage is being forced, obviously, because he's famous for playing the 4 at the back at Benfica? Because obviously Yerson's out, you've got Bolly that's out, and obviously he's finding a way for Connor Cody. Do you think if he gets that centre back in, he will go towards that back 4 once he's got the right person alongside it? And do you see Cody playing in a back 4, or do you think he may be playing in a little bit more of a defensive midfield role?
For me, it depends on who the defender is that they bring in. But for me, I think the big reason he's moved from 4 to 3 is because of no Willy Bolly. I think if you don't have him, the other defenders there don't suit a 2 pairing in central defence. So for me, that's the big reason. He may change back, depends on who he signs. And with Connor Cody, I've always said that all along that I think he's obviously better in a 3. I think he's probably not ideal to play him in a 4, but I'm starting to change my mind slightly on that, because I watch him in pre-season and he's an unbelievable calm presence, so compact and so disciplined. Obviously, a ball in behind, he may be in trouble. He's not the quickest, but I think with the right partner, he could play a 4 definitely. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see who they bring in there. Bolly, hopefully, my story from last week, hopefully isn't going to be too far away as well. Most likely will miss Leicester, but hopefully not too far away after that. So I think one central defender is enough. They've got cover there, or the only problem is they're playing Kilman, left-footed, playing him on the right, playing Saiss, who I don't mind as a player. I just do think he's a bit rash at times and makes the occasional mistake. To say the least.
Safe not have a game where he doesn't get a yellow card.
He's getting yellow cards in pre-season. He loves a yellow card, doesn't he? If
you put an accumulator on Saiss with a yellow card, he's one to go for every week.
He's funny though.
So for me, it's just the balance is not quite right with the back 3.
Oh, sorry. Just another name. I know you sort of said, okay, Yokuslu was wide of the mark, and there was nothing in that according to your sources. Another one was there's one that seems like Leicester agreed a fee for Jan Vestergaard. Was there anything in that with Wolves?
I don't know, to be honest. It's moved very quickly tonight, that one.
Okay.
There was nothing in that up until, I think, the last hour or 2. So as I sit now, don't know. But what I do know is that it's all agreed with Leicester. So regardless of whether Wolves are interested, it looks unlikely that one's going to go through. But for me, 15 mil is around the figure that's been reported. I mean, I'd have taken that as a Wolves fan.
Yeah, that would have been actually pretty good.
I think he's personally, I think he's too slow to play back 4. It's my personal opinion. He's very slow on the turn against fast.
You've been the same for quite some while. We need someone with a little bit more pace at the back, especially if Cody's going to play in a back 4. You've been obviously.
That's what I was quite interested in seeing. Yerson, Mosquera, the way he played those 2 pre-season games. He seemed to cover space and cover the field very quickly, didn't he? A long, lanky stride, and he didn't shirk out of a challenge. And it's been a bit disappointing, obviously, with his injury. It would have been, because he was almost like he was playing himself into a starting position with Bowley's injury.
Yeah.
I think Yerson, he quickly became a fan's favourite because he was a bit like John Smith's, no nonsense. He just got to the ball, dealt with it, and the fans have took to him quite really quickly. I am worried about Bolly because he did pick up a few injuries last year. One person I have been impressed with in pre-season, there's a couple. First of all, Marcel has managed to get through 5 games without being injured, which is a new record.
Saturday first half.
I know. And Morgan Gibbs-White, I think, has made a real impression. The end of last season and also this season, I have a feeling that it could be a real breakthrough season for Morgan this year. I don't know what you guys think.
I still think he needs a season in the Championship, if I'm honest, a full season in the Championship. I don't think he's the answer. I don't think he's the answer to start, and I don't think he's the answer to come off on the bench to make an impact. I still think he needs to get his game right. I don't think that did he play him in a number 10? Who did he bring him on for on Saturday? Can't remember. But
I think he came on the left. I think on the left of the front three.
And I just don't know. There's something. I don't know whether I have a personal thing against Gibbs White. I've just never been that impressed with him, to be honest. I think when he first came in, the first Premier League season, and he seems really promising, but there's not been much follow through. And I just struggle with the way that he's played. And I just think he needs the experience. I think if he had a solid season in the Championship, like he started to have at Swansea, but a proper season, because last season wasn't proper, a proper season with fans in the Championship, I think he could really come on as a player. But I just don't think he's within that squad. The experience is there to make an impact, but that's just my opinion.
We're going to make sure Morgan Gibbs White doesn't hear Amy's bit of this.
I don't think he'll be listening to us.
He had a fantastic I actually thought he had a brilliant end to last season where we struggled, but he was one of those players who shone in the last few games and showed a bit of potential. And I just think you just need to give him that confidence. And you see Cody around him a lot, and he's got very close to Cody. And I think that's not just a natural thing. I think it's probably a tactical thing to get him to feel part of the squad and part of the team, where very much he was on the fringes. And I just think he's got something there now that he never had before, personally. I always used to think he was a little bit distracted by off the field things, and I think he's made some mistakes. We know the party he went to during COVID. He's got the glamour girlfriend and all that, the nice car. But I do think that that's every player, that is.
since
he's come back, I do think he's kind of matured a bit, and he really seems to be a lot more focused to me. I mean, Liam, you've seen these things. You've probably even interviewed Morgan, and obviously we heard the things that Cody said about him as well. I mean, what's your take on that? And also with questions about Podence, how close is he?
Just quickly on Podence, because it'll only be very brief. He is working in training, doing doing his rehabilitation, and now the surgery on his groin, wasn't it, I believe. So not I don't have a time frame, but not, he's working on it. It's not too far. In terms of Morgan, I have been impressed with him in pre-season, and I agree with Manny. Back end of last season, I thought he did well. Yeah. For me, I keep reiterating this. I'm not quite sure what position he is. I'm not quite sure he's a number 10. I'm not quite sure he's left of 3 or right of a 3. I'm not quite sure he's a 2 in centre midfield either. And he's played all of those positions in pre-season so far. But I do think he's talented, and I agree with Dave as well that I think he is more settled off the field now. I think he's matured a bit off the field. Because it blew my mind the other day. I didn't realise he was still 21.
He's only a young lad.
Exactly. He's been around so long. I keep thinking he's 23, 24. So, and that just because he's been around so long, that's how I think of him. And then I realised, no, he's still that young, and I think he has matured off the field. I think he'll have a good season. I do. But I can also see the benefits of a full season in the Championship without an injury, because you saw how well he did for Swansea until his injury. I think that would really help him. But Wolves can't afford, with their squad size, to let him go. I think it'd be an error for the club and the squad as a whole, even though it might not quite do it for him. It might not be the best thing for him, but I think they need him there because the squad's too thin otherwise.
100%. It'd be interesting to watch that one. Go on,
I said
Manny.
Bruno said about the squad size, where he said on one of the interviews that he would like 2 players challenging for every position. And we was blown away because we've been stuck with fairly a small squad. And
well, that was Nuno's mentality, wasn't it?
Yeah, but
Nuno's mentality was small squad.
2 or 3 players, and if we do get a couple of players in, we still have only got the same sort of size squad, haven't we? So is that a longer term ambition for him over a number of years if he gets that time?
I think you'd have to suggest it, because to get to a point of having 2 players for every position isn't going to happen in one transfer window. No. So you think he's obviously still inherited what Nuno's got, and the kind of a bit of the Nuno ethos as well, isn't it? So there's probably a plan to get there. Don't
you think injuries have because you look at Johnny, you look at Neto, you look at Podence, look at Bolly, Look at Mascara.
Enough for a first team.
You put those 5 straight away into the squad. Suddenly, we're sitting a little bit. Oh, we've got a bit of, So maybe the injury situation now has panicked a lot of fans and wanting players in and compounded. And we have got 3 weeks left, but fans generally want to get all the business done before the first ball's kicked. So that's the frustration. Why can't we get players in? But I suppose Liam you'll probably tell us it doesn't work. Transfer windows just don't work like that anymore.
Especially with the Euros happening, it being such a busy summer, it was always going to be a busier August than it was July or June for most clubs. Now, people will pull out the examples of Aston Villa, for example, who have signed very well this summer and have done their business fairly early. But Wolves haven't just sold a player for 100 million. There's a difference there. It's the context is so different. So it was always going to be a bigger August. And just on the squad size and the amount of players for each position, when you take those players from injury into account, and albeit Neto and Johnny, they've been serious injuries, they're going to need time. When you put them into the equation, the squad does look so much healthier. You're looking at goalkeeper, they've got 2 very good goalkeepers. Right wing back, Hover and Semedo, 2 very, very good players. Centre back, we need a sign-in, but you've got, in terms of depth, you do have enough players. You've got Kilman, Size, Cody, Mosquera, Bolly. Left wing back, Johnny to come back, 8 Nori and Marcel. Midfield, you've got 3 really, so you need a sign in there, but you normally play 2. So 1 sign in there. Morgan Gibbs White as a backup, that's an option. And then, striker, Raul and Fabio, you probably want another option there, which is what they're looking at. And then right wing, left wing, you've got Adama, you've got Podence, you've got Neto, and you've got Trincao. Those 4 is a very good 4 for either side there.
Really good front line. It's a very good front line.
Yeah, I think you have to take that into account, really, because I think a lot of fans get bogged down on the fact that they've got injuries and the squad is a bit thin and they do need 1 or 2 signings. But give it, a couple of months when these players start to come back, that will really help. I know, you've got a tough start and you want to have the squad ready for the season. But I have to temper expectations a little bit and think, we might not get actually kicking properly until a few months in.
Do you know what, Liam? I actually think the fact that we've got Leicester, Tottenham and United in the first 3 games in some way buys a little bit of time for Bruno, because they are, you're talking 2 out of the top 4 and then Tottenham, obviously, top 7 established club. I think if we got 4 points out of those first 9 points, we'd be absolutely
4 points, Dave. Let's move on to the 4th game. Forget the first. Give me 4 points now. I'll take them.
I was just going to say, if we got 4 points, we'd be over the moon.
I think 4 points is very, very ambitious.
I know. Well, exactly. I'll be over the moon with it.
Wolves, they can surprise us. They've done it before, and you look at Raul, you look at Traore, some of the things he does. Traore last year, I thought, had a brilliant season. It's just he'd never had anybody to cross to. He created more chances virtually than anybody else in the league. He had more take-ons. He put the ball in the box. And now Jimenez is there. He's back, and obviously with the way the Premier League is, it will really test him out. And friendlies are different, but he looks really raring to go. He's not pulling out of any challenges. We saw that against Celta Vigo. He's not shirking anything. You've probably seen him in training, Liam. How's he been? Because he's like our big hope, isn't he?
I think he looks really sharp, really, really sharp. I don't want to go too far to say that he's going to be the player of 2019 because it's going to take time, obviously, and it's such a massive thing that happened to him. But I think he's looked far and away virtually the same player. I just said I wouldn't say it, and I said it, but I think he's looked very, very good. I really have. Should have scored against Celta Vigo. It's been very, very sharp. Not shirking a challenge, winning headers. The link-up play and the hold-up play.
That outside of his foot as well. That was well of old.
It's for me, obviously he's a very good goal scorer, very dangerous, but for me, it's the link-up and the hold-up play that brings the players, I think not only the forward players like Traore into the game, it also brings Ruben Neves into the game so much more because he's got someone to pass into, and Raul's got someone to lay it off to, and all of a sudden there's a 30-yard pass to the other wing, and Traore's running down the towards the fullback. So for me, the link-up and the hold-up play is crucial, and that isn't what Fabio offers because that's not the type of player he is. But Raul, does that all day, and I think he's the gel for that team, and you could see how much we missed him last year.
Yeah, I
Well,
agree.
we're
I
going
think
from William Jose to Raul Jimenez. So there's your upgrade straight away to look forward to, Wolves fans.
I think
it was
nice. I think it was just nice to see Raul back, and like I just watched that South Vigo game and I was kind of a bit in awe of like how much we'd missed him, like the little flicks that he does and just the way that he controls literally everything in that final third. It just comes from him. And I did have a bit of a scare though, because one of the South Vigo players, like Hoover, went down and like rubbed his head, and I thought it was Jimenez, and I was like, don't touch the head, please don't touch the head, but it wasn't. It was fine. So as long as we protect the head, then it's all good. But yeah, no, I'm really excited to see him play properly again, and like a full ground at Molineux as well, I think. And you can tell from like the interviews that he's done that he's genuinely just happy to be able to come back and play football, because it's what he loves doing. And he's 30 now, so I don't know how many seasons he's got left in the Premier League, but I think it's just for us as fans to enjoy the fact that he's back and he's playing, and he's just going to relish in that. I think he's going to just take the opportunity to be grateful for playing, which I think is really nice to see as well.
Liam, before we start getting on to obviously our predictions for the season and our expectations, a couple of questions on Raul. Do you know what the headband is on his thing, what it's made out of to protect him? And also, there's been a lot of Wolves fans that have been really stressed about Fosun not as interested, not spending the money and all that type of thing. And obviously going on about the stadium redevelopment, and you got the Gene Kelly stand that obviously was very much talked about with it being out for the first couple of games and the members and stuff like that. And Manny's talked about the communication from the club and everything like that. I know there's a lot in there, but in terms of Raul headwear, have you found out what that is, and what can you tell us about Fosun and their aims, what you've been able to pick up?
It's a good question about the Raul headband, because I've not actually thought about that. We are planning hopefully to speak to him at some point fairly soon, so that will be one to ask. I know that they had upgraded the one that they had in pre-season for the season, so he's got some sort of prototype one that he's been working on it. I mean, it's obviously doing the trick because he seems fine, so that's good. In terms of, just reiterate again what the bits we focused on, there was a lot in there. I don't want to get anything missed out.
Yeah, basically, obviously, people worry about Fosun losing interest because of the investment. The Molineux upgrade seems to be put on the back burner when obviously there's a 17,000 waiting list. And recently, obviously, the Graham Hughes stand, which is often called as the Gene Kelly stand because it's got no roof. A week before the season starting, they're saying that that's now not fit, and that's 500 seats, and they've had all 18 months to sort of work that out. I mean, and there seems to be a little bit of a disengage. I know they started to have that engage with the Ask Wolves series. What are you picking up from what you've been able to pick up from Jeff and the management team over at Wolves in terms of their ambitions and communication with the fans?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the focus and the ambition is very much on making Wolves an established Premier League side, which they have been for the last 3 years, but also building on that and building into European football regularly. That's still the ambition. In terms of the stadium, the Graham Hughes one, it's a bit of a misconception that they've had 18 months. It's essentially it's been sprung upon them that all of a sudden it's not fit for purpose. Whereas only weeks ago they were told it was, because it's a temporary stand. It's not classed in the same way as the other stands at Molineux, and it has to have an external report done, and they have to look at it and check that the structure's safe and various facilities are safe. And all of a sudden, physically without time to do it in the start of the season, they've been told it's not ready. So fortunately, it will be ready for the Brentford game on the 18th. But they've been dealt a pretty dud card there by the fact that they're not going to have 500 seats. Or actually, I think it's 800 actually. The Graham Hughes. I think the other one that they're planning is 500, but Graham Hughes I think is 800. They're not going to have 800 seats for Spurs and Man United, which obviously are two big games. But that's just bad luck. I can defend. As far as I've been told, and I've been aware and looked into it, I can defend the club on that stance that they've not neglected it. It's been sprung upon them rather quickly by these sort of external examiners. They haven't lost interest. They have to be careful. this summer for various FFP reasons. They're under different rules to other clubs having played Europe recently, and they have to. They said they had to be creative, and that's the reality. They can't go out and spend 100 million like they have done in, I think, what was the first year back or second year back in the Premier League. Excuse me. They have to be careful about it. They have to build for the future as best they can. Fabio Silva coming in, and it's going to take time. And they've obviously had a few bumps in the road with Nuno going. He was close to leaving earlier that season as well.
Is that right?
Yeah,
going to sacked or walking.
I believe the former. I think he was almost let go
after the Albion game.
I'm trying to remember which game it was. I think it was around January time, so that maybe the Albion game, if my memory serves me right. But it was somewhere around there. They were close to making a decision there because it obviously wasn't going very well. And from then onwards, you saw a little bit of a shift with Nuno's play as well. It became a lot more dull. A lot more compact. It was always fairly compact anyway, but I think there was definitely a shift because there was a moment where Wolves were looking the wrong way down the table and were 7, 8, 9 points away from Newcastle, for example, who were always in and around the bottom 4, 5. So there was the thought there. They've gone for a change, and it's a bit of a transition period for Fosun and the club. They've got a new manager. 100%. They're having to change style. They're having to bring players in, and they're also having to battle the finances alongside that. For me, they are, as frustrating as it is for fans, they're making the right decision by keeping Wolves financially comfortable. The last thing you want to do is put this club into so much unsavable debt that all of a sudden a relegation turns into another relegation, turns into a Bury situation.
We've been there, haven't we, Liam?
Now, yeah, I mean, it seems dramatic to say, but that is possible. You've seen clubs that spend money and don't have success, and all of a sudden they're in League One. All of a sudden they're struggling for a new owner. Sunderland are a great example of that. QPR, there's
a lot of big clubs in League One. A lot of big clubs in League One. Portsmouth are there. Leeds have been down there, and they were there for a long time. Exactly what you said.
Bournemouth and Brighton were there not long ago as well. It's these. You've got to be careful of going too far, desperate for success, that you're going to put everything in jeopardy. And they're very smart business people at Wolves, although ruthless, and maybe people don't enjoy it as much at times because they want a 40 million signing here, 50 million signing there. They're sensible, and they're going to do it what they think is the right way. We may look back in 10 years and it may be the wrong way, but as it stands, I think the success they've had, I think you've got to keep trust with them.
I'm very much of the thought that they've done everything they said they're going to do. I have to ask you these questions, Liam, because obviously fans out there have these perceptions, and it's really great to hear from someone like you that does have that reporting relationship with the club, that you get to know a little bit more than the average fan, to hear what you've been saying on that, and hopefully it reassures some fans. Obviously, Wolves have got this project. They're building up the esports brand. They're building up the fashion, and maybe the average fan don't probably see why they're doing that. But it's all about revenue streams, isn't it? And bringing in the additional revenue streams. And of course, they've got the new relationship with Castore, and Wolves have got license to be able to move faster in the market around the world if they get a player to open. All that, all these things over time close that gap on the commercial side, which they're looking to do. So it's. Thanks for that. I think we've covered up pretty much most on the transfers. Amy, I'm going to go to you first, as we're just entering the last few minutes of the podcast. What are your expectations for this season, and where do you think we can finish, and what are your hopes for the season?
Oh my God, I'm usually, me, I'm such an optimistic person, but I don't know why. I just feel a bit nervous and apprehensive for this year. I think it's probably been a lot of change and uncertainty. For me, I don't think it's going to be a pretty season. I think we talked about kind of the transition season last year, but I think this one's going to be an even further transition because when we all work at companies, and you have a change at the top, and it takes a long time for that change, if it's a substantial change, for that to bed in. I hope it's not a relegation scrap, but I can't see us finishing much more than about 15th. But I would like to be proven wrong.
15th, okay. That's fair enough. And Manny?
Well, you know what? At the start of the season, for 3 years, I've been saying the same thing. People go on about our defence, not signing a central defender. We just don't score enough goals. In the first half, we've been the worst in the whole league. Our goal output for a top 13 side, we finished 7th, and 13th, was the lowest aggregate scoring out of any of those 13 sides. We're scoring 1 or 2 goals maximum. If we don't score and concede one, then obviously straight away the onus is on the defence to keep a clean sheet. Like Celta Vigo, for example, it was a friendly. You hammer 3 or 4 goals in, nobody talks about the goal we conceded because we won convincingly. So what I expect and what I want is us to score more goals from other areas. And I'm not talking about 80 or 90 a season. I'm not talking 4 and 5-0 wins. I'm talking 2s and 3s, just 2s and 3s, where that then takes a bit of pressure off your defence. If you haven't scored after 70 minutes, suddenly your defence is under pressure. Oh, that's how it works. You've got to put the ball in the back of the net, and we can't just say it was down to Raul last season. We just didn't create, and when we did create, we just didn't take those chances. So, want more goals. I think we scored 53 this season. We failed, and Spurs pipped us by goal difference. And then last year we went even worse because 53 was poor. We went even worse. So I would like to get back to the 53 plus goals. And I think if we get that, then we have a successful season. Where that places us, whether it's a top 12 or a mid table finish or the 15th or 16th, I just want to see more positivity, more chances, and more taking of chances, goals from all areas, and not that much. Our defence over the last 4 years, on aggregate, the goals conceded isn't that bad compared to the rest. Attack is woeful in terms of the number of goals we score. So that's what I need. That's what I want to see. And I would probably say,
go on.
If we finish in the top 12, I'll be over the moon. But that's where I'm at. With signings, it will change it, and I'm sure we win a couple of matches, we'll all be dreaming of, we're Wolves fans, we'll start dreaming of Europe, and it's
the hope that kills
and we're
you.
going to win the league.
If you'd have a little hope.
Yeah.
And what about you, Liam? I'd probably a bit difficult, but I mean, you are a Wolves fan, you're a passionate Wolves fan. And obviously this job has got to be your dream job, being a Wolves in some ways, because I suppose you have to be that pull away and you want to be in the crowd, bouncing around with the fans when that last minute goal goes in, I can imagine. And probably sometimes you're in the commentary box or doing it and you have to hold yourself back a bit. But as a Wolves fan, taking your journalist hat off for a second, what's your thoughts? Where do you think we can finish, and what's your hopes?
Well, just on that, you do have to be obviously more objective. I can't be too emotionally invested because I've obviously got a job to do. But if we score a 94th minute winner, there might be a little jump up and a little cheer, and then straight back down, eyes down onto the laptop and moving away again. But if I was going to be a bit vague, I would say somewhere from 14th to 10th. I think is probably realistic. I'd say somewhere in the middle of that, 13th to 12th, something like that. I'll go with 12th. I think that's possible. And I do think that Wolves are going to have a slightly more difficult start to the season, first half, and I think the second half will be much better. I think once the timing has got there for Bruno, Freudian slip there, Bruno to get into his style in, have the players, and let's remember as well, these are modern professional footballers. They're intelligent footballers. They can change systems. Just because they've played a certain way for 3 years doesn't mean they can't, or 4 years, doesn't mean they can't change. They are going to be able to do it. It's just going to take time. So I think with that, with a couple of signings in the door, with the injuries coming back as well, I think the second half of the season will be better than the first. And provided he gets given the time, I think around 12th would be reasonable. I think any higher than that, I think is a very good job on Bruno's part, because I think he still needs to bring more signings in for what he wants to do. He's only got 2 or 3 probably to work with, added on to what's already been done. So yeah, about 12th, I think. And I think most Wolves fans would probably take that at this point.
Well,
that sounds really optimistic, don't I? 15.
No. Well, Amy, sometimes when you say that, and then if you exceed the expectations, you're happier, aren't you?
Yeah.
For me, I got interviewed by BT Sport last week for an article on their website, and they asked me a load of these questions and hopes and aspirations and stuff like that. And I'm ever so positive. I'm always Mr. Positive, me. For me,
He's saying we're winning the league, David.
Well, not quite, but I did say, obviously, we're in a transition period at the moment. The jury, obviously, you've got to give the guy a chance. We've got to get behind Bruno Lage and back him. I do worry, because we've all said some of the fan base can turn very, very fast and expectations are at a level. I think we have to temper those expectations, especially like what you said, Liam, especially the early part of the season and the first half of the season, when we start getting players back and they get used to the formation and the systems and Nuno, when he first came in, he was in the Championship and he had a really long period. And that game against Leicester, the pre-season match, we saw, wow, straight away. We haven't seen that with Bruno Lage, but he came in at Benfica and he got the best out of them and was attacking. And we saw a bit of that in the second half. For me, can we score goals first? Can we score in the first half and get the lead and then, like what Nuno said, push on and score a second? Manny said second and a third goal. I would love to see us have a really good cup run. My dad's now 84 and it's been his dream all his life for us to go to an FA Cup final and sing goodbye with me. And he's running out of, obviously, time. He's still ticking along quite well, but a proper good cup run would be nice, like we had the first season in the Premier League, and maybe get to that final would be amazing. And I did say, although I did temper this with expectations, I would say it'd be nice to finish 7th again and get Europa League football. I know. I said it would be nice.
Check his mug. Just check his mug. What is he drinking?
I know, if we could get that.
Dave, I love the positivity.
I have always missed the positive. I always try to look on the positive side, that it will come good and will come good. But obviously, like everyone else, as long as we don't get into a dirty relegation battle, and we're clear of that, and we play some entertaining football and it's more positive and we can see progress, I think, like everyone, I'd be happy with that. But interesting. I'm just going to go out there and say 7s just because someone has to. So there you go.
Maybe you should put a bet on it, put a 5 on it, and then you could probably get quite good odds.
As Vinyl Revival says, you got a dream, and we really have. Finally, to finish off on Liam, Nuno versus Bruno, Tottenham match. How are you feeling about that?
I think it'd be a good occasion. I haven't mentioned this on Twitter yet, but I'm actually on holiday for the Man United game, so I'm so pleased I'm not missing the Spurs games. I think it's going to be a really good day. He'll got a good reception, of course he will. I think, regardless of the, from a journalist point of view, that he wasn't particularly forthcoming. From a fan point of view, from the what he did for Wolves, many people will see him as the greatest manager in their generation, at least going back to Stan Cullis days, possibly in the 50s. I think he's been that good. I think he was a genius for Wolves, really was. Last season, obviously disappointing, but I think he'll get a good reception. And as much as I think Wolves fans will be very thankful for what he did for them, I would love to see Bruno get one over him, obviously. And it's going to be a real battle of philosophies, won't it? I mean, they're totally different in terms of human beings as they come across, and they're totally different philosophies as well. I mean, he's spoken a lot about that. So I think it'll be a good occasion. I think that's probably the easiest game of the 3, if we're being honest. Spurs are...
looking at the first 3 games, let's be honest, all 3 games we could lose all 3 quite easily. But we've shown in the past we can also win games, and we've had very close battles with Leicester. We've had fantastic results against Spurs and against United as well, and we've kept Raul's there, Traore's there, Neves is there. We've still got good players on that pitch. Okay, behind those first 8 or 9, 10 players, we haven't got many options on the bench, but we still have talent in our squad. So I don't think we should be writing the team off completely and just thinking, oh my God, 3 matches, we're not going to get anything, because Wolves have time and again surprised us. And we've got a new manager. And one thing, like Dave said twice already, we as fans, regardless of who we sign and who we don't sign, when at 3 o'clock on Saturday against Leicester, anyone who's going, just sing your hearts out and do your job and back the manager. It's not his fault. He hasn't had all the time and all the players he wants, and everything hasn't gone perfectly in the transfer window. It's his first ever game as a Wolves manager, so and the home game will be the same. And we just got to. The board might not give him time if we're in the bottom 3 at Christmas, but we as fans, I think we have to give him a real decent chance.
100%, Manny. We've got to get behind him. The one thing, and to end this on a positive, we've had 18 months without fans at football. It's been the one thing that's missing. Cody, all the players have said about it. And are you going to Leicester, Amy? You going?
No, I'm not going to Leicester.
So
the Spurs game will be my first proper game back, and I think it's quite poignant that it's against Spurs and Nuno and everything. I think it's a good chance for everyone to kind of say bye, which obviously we didn't get to do at the last game. So I think it's going to be quite a nice day as long as we win.
Well, I think you're right. I think it's going to be Nuno never really had a chance to say goodbye to the fans properly, did he? And I think the fact that it's his first game, he will get a great reception from the fans. At the end of the game, I'm sure I wouldn't be surprised if Nuno comes on the pitch and claps the fans and says thank you, and they said thank you to him. But at the end of the day, regardless of us paying our respects and saying thank you to Nuno, it's all Bruno now, and we've got to get behind him, and we want to win that game, and that's the priority. And the thanks afterwards can be set. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm at Leicester at the weekend. I think you are, Manny, and you're obviously be covering it, Liam, and reporting on the atmosphere. And that's going to be an emotional atmosphere for the Leicester fans as well. Obviously, they had a great season winning the FA Cup. They won the Community Shield at the wing. They're going to be massive, massive favourites to win that game. But as Manny said, this is Wolves. We could either get absolutely done 5-0 and playing the high line and get caught by Vardy, or we could sneak it 1-0. But in the last 2 times,
Dave,
we played decent.
They're not that massive. They're not Real Madrid, Barcelona in their prime. They're Leicester City. Their defence.
We do all right against Leicester.
They're Vestergaard. We run rings around Vestergaard with our players before when we played Southampton. So we might concede a bit of. They might get behind us and we need a bit of luck, and the goalkeeper probably needs to make a few saves. But we can cause them problems. We always have every time we've played Leicester. So just get down. Those 3,500 fans will be loud on Saturday. 100%. Trust me, they will be giving absolutely everything. And I think the team will as well. They'll want to prove a point, a new manager. It's almost like, even though we've had pre-season, it's their first chance as well. If Morgan Gibbs-White gets on or someone, it'll be their first chance to put down a real marker in front of their new boss and maybe just sort of seal down a position. So, let's look forward to it. We've had so much crap over 18 months. And if we just go into that match all downbeat and thinking, we haven't got the players and it's going to be a rubbish season, then is that what we go to football for now? We start the match thinking that we're going to win the league. Yeah, by the time we finish and we walk into our cars, we probably want to sack the manager, but we'll wait. We'll do that when it happens,
Mate, I tell you what, it's going to be fantastic. It's going to be a great atmosphere. Can't wait the whole day. It's not just about the game, the build up, the travelling there, the before, the after. It's all going to be back at the weekend, and then we've got Moutinho, which is going to be an amazing occasion. That reunion will probably be a really emotional day against Tottenham. I can't wait for that. But let's go. The fans have got to get behind the manager, get behind the boys, and give it everything, and then see what happens. The only one thing I hope doesn't happen is we score first and they rule it out for VAR again, because that's what happens every time we play Leicester. So maybe we'll get the... I just want to
mention quickly a question that I forgot. The Wolves women are also starting their campaign this week against Middlesbrough. They finally, after 2 seasons of absolute crap and being denied promotion, they, deservedly got promoted, and they've it looks like they've made some really good signings from the higher leagues. And so, Liam, I know Express Star or you guys cover what you cover or what you know, it's important that we give that, you know, team and Dan and the work they've done the coverage that they deserve, and hopefully fans can get down there. Remember, season ticket holders, it's free for you to go down there on Sunday at 4 o'clock, or I think it's 4 o'clock.
Yeah, Dan's done a very good job. Then you're right; they've had a terrible couple of seasons with COVID and everything, but he's done a great job there. So yeah, my plan is to get in there, do as much as I can with them. Obviously, the academy as well at Wolves, and just give as much well-rounded coverage as I can. Obviously, there's only a certain amount, or only one bloke. There's only a certain amount I can get to. But yeah, I want to get in touch with Dan. We've got a contact for him, and go through the right channels, and and give them some coverage, because they deserve it as well, and hopefully they'll have a good season.
I believe they will. Yeah, we wish the Wolves win well, and we will do a few bits on here as well. Manny, and just to finish off, on Samosa Saturday happening.
Yeah, it's coming on the 28th. We thought about going back to the grounds, and we was a bit nervous on what restrictions might still be in place. So we've kept it as a delivery service. We've got about 90 orders again. So we're delivering on the 28th from Stafford to Worcester down to Shrewsbury. We'll be delivering samosas. Connor Cody again. He's a samosa lover. He's ordered samosas again. Ruben Neves, I think, is ordering as well, which is great because I'm delivering them on the 28th, 3 days before the transfer window ends. So if he's having samosas off me, he can't be going anywhere.
Let's hope.
I like that thinking.
Thank you again for everybody's support to the cause, and
you can still some availability, isn't there, at the moment?
Yeah, we'll supply. I'm jetting off to India. I'm doing the reverse of Liam. I won't be at the Spurs match. I'll be watching on my phone in India, thousands of miles away on a dodgy stream. So and then I'll be back for the United game. So yeah, we've got availability. I'll be back on the 24th, and that'll be straight into samosa production for the 28th, and then United on the 29th. So it's hectic. So I hope we get a couple of results to go with all that, traveling and
absolutely. Well, I just want to say a big thank you to everyone that's been watching. We've had nearly 200 on at points tonight as well, watching it simultaneously. And obviously, if you're listening to this back on the podcast, I hope you're enjoying it wherever you are in the world. And obviously, if you watched it live, please leave some comments in the comment section. Smash a like on the video. Feel free to share. Amy, if anyone wants to get in touch with you or find you, what your socials, and what year is your retro shirt that you've got? It's a white year.
It's got 2000 on it. So 2000, 2001, I think. Puma one. I do like this shirt actually, and it is the original. It's not one of these ones I bought out, so it just shows I've not grown that much since 2020. Absolutely. However many years. I'm Amy Had on Instagram, but I'm very bad on my phone, as Dave will tell everyone. So
yeah, terrible on WhatsApp sometimes.
Apologies if I don't reply to you.
Manny, how can people find you?
Yeah, Manny Sinkang on Facebook, and at Pedal Sing on Twitter. Again, hopefully by bonfire night, before then, we'll get a home game where we'll do a samosa Saturday just outside the ground and get the fans involved again.
That'd be amazing. Well, I'm just Dazzling Dave on YouTube.
I'm just Dazzling Dave. That's me.
And Instagram. That's it. And Liam, to finish off with, mate, thank you so much for making your debut tonight. I really hope you've enjoyed it. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on. Already as the Wolves main correspondent, your articles have been absolutely goldous and brilliant for fans, and so people can find you and find your articles. If you want to say a little bit more about how they can connect with you and follow you.
Yeah, thank you very much for that, Dave. That's very kind of you. Yeah, it's been a good start. I'm really pleased to obviously be covering the club I support. It's been a dream. So yeah, brilliant. For me, I'm on Twitter at LiamKeen_star will be the place to find me. And obviously, me and Nathan Judah do our podcast as well. I think we're recording tomorrow, so keep an ear and an eye out on Twitter for that. But as I said at the beginning, I want to get my face and name out there with all the Wolves fans. Make sure people know who I am, and hopefully do a good job in giving them some independent coverage as well. So yeah, thanks for having me on. I've really enjoyed it.
We're waiting for the next couple of days. We're waiting for a Keane bomb. A Keane bomb.
And that's it, a Keane bomb. That's what we'll have to call it when it drops with the transfers and stuff.
I'll do my best.
Jason here says thank you. Great to see you on. Very interesting. Liam, hopefully you'll come and join us again. And as I say, go and check out the fantastic Express Stars poddy, because it's always with the fantastic Nathan Judar as well. He's always very entertaining, and they're always a great listen as well, and obviously brilliant coverage of Wolves. And we do wish you well, Liam, and hopefully you'll come on again in the future for us. And let's hope that we do have a positive start, and maybe we'll finish 7th. Who knows? From myself, Manny, Amy, and Liam, and to wherever you are watching or listening in the world, we do wish you the best, and always Wolves.
Bye.
Cheers.